Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, gonna be fine. How about you?
Good, good.
You turned on your video today, so I can tell you're in a better space than last week, right?
Yes. I was actually a little under the weather, and it showed.
Oh, please. There's no way it ever shows on you. What's that hook on the back of your door for? Is that an exercise thing, or is that to hold your favorite cardigan, or what?
Honestly, I don't even know where or why we had that hook, but I've been using it to hold my little sweater that I put on for these meetings.
I was curious. It's a double hook. I'm like, that looks kind of handy.
I don't know. Look, it's been there for so long. Who knows?
Oh, Amazon would know. Hi, Sierra. Good morning. All right. We still have that. I don't know why I can't get that default to change from just all panelists to all panelists and attendees. So friends, as you log in, just a housekeeping reminder, as before, is it Belen? I don't know, but De Leon, I'm gonna say your last name with some accent. But if you want to talk to everybody, make sure you change your pull down to all panelists and attendees so y'all can talk amongst yourselves in the chat block. Janaea and I love to talk to you, but if you leave it at the default of all panelists, then we're having a secret back hallway conversation. If you have questions as we go, of course, that's in the Q&A in your toolbar if it's up or if it's down, wherever you've got your toolbar sitting. So Janae, it's all you, baby.
It is 10 o'clock on the dot, and we want to go ahead and get started. This is our last and final session in this series, and we're just so sad, but we're happy because we know we're going to get some great information today. So if you all are just joining us for the first time, you are definitely in for a treat with Miss Leigh Brown, who is an all-star realtor, broker, team lead extraordinaire out of the North Carolina market. She serves on several committees for NAR. She's been the CRS president, national president. She's just what I like to call the bomb.com. And so she has been doing this series for us, hashtag Be the Resource. And so today we're going to go and delve into hashtag Be the Future. And so I'm just so excited to introduce to some, but I know she's a friend to all, Miss Leigh Brown, and just take it away.
Thank you, friend. And y'all make sure you give a big thank you to your volunteer leaders like Janaea, who were in this process for a long time, and this year has snuck up on them, and it's not anybody's expected year of leadership, but it's absolutely when we find out who our true positive leaders are. So thank you for being willing to give time to your association and to your colleagues. Y'all, if you've never served in volunteer leadership in the realtor world, I would beg of you to figure out how to get yourself involved, because it changes your life. And I think anybody that's ever served will tell you the same thing. And it changes your outlook on our profession and our colleagues. But the unengaged member has no idea the kind of time and effort and energy that goes into doing exactly what Madam President Kennedy is doing for y'all this year. So just a quick piece of housekeeping. I love the good mornings coming in over here, but you're only able to be seen by the two of us. So if you'll change your pull down, it is defaulting to all panelists. That's just me and Janaea. So if you'll put that little arrow on all panelists and attendees, then y'all can coordinate amongst yourselves, because Carmen is from Dawsonville, Georgia. And so she would like to say hello to everybody, not just to me, but you know what, Carmen? My driver was always Bill Elliott. So awesome Bill from Dawsonville, and say, I can't see your town without smiling real big. But I really don't do NASCAR anymore because it changed so much. They got away from their roots of who they are. And in fact, we could say that about a lot of things in life. So there are recordings of the first two sessions of this three-part series. And I don't really know where they live. So my suggestion is that you reach out to your association executive. Of course, for Cobb County, that's Barry. And then Barry opened this up to other associations so that we could all work together in this process. And I highly recommend that if you are fresh to us today, that you go in and watch the first two of the sessions to get an idea, because here's what we talked about. In session one, our primary focus was on how we, each of us individually in our communities with our neighbors and friends, we redefine what it means to be a realtor, because a lot of the kerfluffle that has gone on has to do with the fact that we have never effectively explained to the public what we do. We have not been consistent in our message, and we've kind of failed at letting people know that what we do is essential and not for the reasons that they thought. People thought that they were thinking of us as open house holders and thinking of us as people who show houses to the whole world. And we do show houses to the world, and we do have open houses, but the bulk of what we do has to do with us as professional problem solvers. And so as we talked our way through the realities of being a realtor, my challenge to you in session one was to make sure and let people know. So to change your bios, change your explanation of who realtors are, and stop being this, I'm amazing selling houses, looking awesome. And in fact, right now, let's just remember that if you're posting about showing 25 houses in a row, your optics aren't great right now. And especially, we know in Georgia, the big cluster of outbreak was from a large funeral, right? And so you know the reality of that's how that outbreak happened. The optics are still there. So just be smart in your messaging about who realtors are and how you're operating. And then we took that into session two. And of course, session one was hashtag be the realtor. And session two was hashtag be the resource. And we talked about how we as realtors can be a news resource to our friends and family and clients who have tuned out the mainstream media, don't know what to listen to, don't know which end is up, they're overwhelmed, and then how we can message in a positive way. And then we talked about the scheduling that's part of that. And I hope that each of you thought about ways to adapt your social media to the time that we're in, frankly, and take it beyond. And I'll give you those resources again, every one of the downloads from the first two sessions. I'll give you those links here shortly. And I did see a couple of y'all that posted a ready.gov message to your sphere, especially in light of all the storms that we came through after Easter. So high fives and gold stars for those of y'all that implemented. We then talked about improving your business during this time with some systems and checklists and making a more business-oriented real estate life. And then, of course, we dug deeply into your database. And I know I hurt some feelings last week because I did remind you that the 8,000 people in your database don't really belong to you, that there's this many with whom you have a deep relationship, and how we can figure out who those people are. So as we figure out who those people are, let's dig into session three, which is hashtag be the future. And I will tell you that the hardest part for me of this pandemic is getting up in the morning and figuring that I have something purposeful to do with my life, because it's really hard. And you're not the only one that's having a hard time. And I can promise you that we are in this professional life, people who are used to being around other humans, whether we're in client situations or we're networking or we're volunteering. Realtors are rarely in their houses. You're in everybody else's house, but never yours. And you are rarely sitting still, yet here you have been in your makeshift home office sitting, and you're doing Zoom calls and you're doing your best to stay in front of people. So you're in a very big new normal. And the challenge I think we're finding is that other small businesses, they're different than we are. And that's okay. In fact, it's wonderful that we're different. That's why we chose an entrepreneurial world, but it makes it hard. And so if we're going to get through the hard mornings and the hard days, we have to remember there's another side to this. And I can't say it enough. There's an end to this pandemic era. Of course, we know the states are all talking about the reopen process. How do we get this open? Georgia has the same thing going on that North Carolina does. How do we take care of our coastal counties? Because without a high season, you are going to doom a lot of people. So how do we safely and smartly reopen our beaches and our businesses and get Hartsfield-Jackson going again? Because you want to talk about impact. That airport being down is so many thousands and thousands of jobs, not just for Delta, but just for the whole Atlanta region. And so start thinking about these big pictures, and then you start to realize, okay, we can, as realtors, be that future. So as I dig into the slide decks, one more reminder over here in the chat block, make sure you change your to line, hit the down arrow and put it to all panelists and attendees so that you can all navigate and network with one another. And I mentioned that multiple times because we're not networking as much as usual. So even opportunities like a webinar together, take advantage of that. Say hello to your friends. Take note of somebody from a different market with whom you could connect later. So as we think about this coming out the other side and how hard it can be to get up in the morning, of course, I made the slides, so I got to pick the eye candy. And so we have on the left somebody who obviously works really hard at making a physique happen that they want. And we all know that no matter how many magic pills you have seen advertised during the game show network or in magazines or on Instagram ads, you don't get that without the work. And the work is not a one-day thing. The work is not one lucky moment. The work is every single day. And it's not just the physical working out. That dude's probably taking protein shakes and eating right and probably not eating all of the jelly beans that were left at the grocery store, which I totally buy when they are, oops, switch the slides. Did I not move my slides? Oh, snap. What do y'all see on your screen? Janae is trying to save me from myself, but I don't know if I shared my slides correctly. Do you guys see Homer Simpson and a really handsome dude? No, you don't. Oh, thank you. Let me fix it right quick. See, I knew Janae would fix me. Dun, dun, dun. See, and I'm a realtor, so I'll just use that as my excuse for not being technology savvy. So let's change it here to PowerPoint. Oh, I was in Safari, wasn't I? All right then. So let's go back here, and then I can remind y'all again, change your to block in the chat to all panelists and attendees, because I see Tanya and I see Francis and nobody else can see y'all. So change your to blocks so you can talk to each other. Now I'm going to advance my slides. Now do you see my eye candy? Somebody tell me in the chat block if I got that fixed. I know Janaea will because she's in charge of things and organized, and was what happened to her. Okay then, so there we go. Thank you, friends. Oh, Cheryl, you're my favorite for going yes. See, because I kind of love the whole yes queen thing in life. Anyway, so that's somebody who's focused and doesn't have a gym right now. So the gyms are closed. So what's he doing? Is he giving up, or is he continuing to find a way? Unfortunately, when you get down, you start feeling like Homer. You feel like laying on the couch. You feel like just getting the junky food and just napping all day. And I had this conversation with a realtor on Thursday of last week. She's a realtor from Ohio. She's one of the smartest people ever. And she was feeling really blue because she's a super upbeat, optimistic, and cheerful person. And it's getting to her, the fact that she's been at home this long, but she feels like she has to always be the upbeat, positive, and optimistic person because that's what people have come to rely on. But she's feeling lost. And so she called me because I'm an upbeat, positive, and cheerful person. And she just wanted to vent. And that's okay, because not 10 minutes after I got off the phone with her, she went out and did her normal cheerful post, and I'm watching how she is impacting lives and changing things. You have to check on each other. That's how we can help each other be that guy instead of this one, right? And we can do this. So let's talk about, you knew this was coming, right? If we really want to be the future and we really want to change things all the time, that's why we have RPAC. For years, we've had this program. I mean, we're in year 51, and most of our members think it's lining the pockets of politicians, if they know that much, if they know that R is Realtor and not Republican, because it does tickle me that so many of our members still think that R stands for Republican. Legit, we don't look at party, we look at your voting record and what you're going to do for our people. So when you think about what the PAC means, I'm gonna tell y'all something. This era that we're in needs us politically, because politically everybody fights over often the wrong thing. They're distracted. They're picking fights, and realtors don't pick fights, at least not until coronavirus we didn't. We're out there figuring, you know what, I know we don't agree on that, so we're not going to talk about that. Let's find something we can move forward on together. Because as realtors, when we focus on what we can do together, that's how we improve things like home ownership rates. That's how we improve low-income housing tax credits and public-private partnerships as we figure out how we create some solutions to the affordability situation going on. We start figuring out that independent contractors need help too when the economy gets shut down by fiat. We understand that small businesses, whether they're realtors or not, need to be honored and helped to survive. And our work is so far beyond who we are. And in RPAC, you have to remember, getting to participate in that, that's a member benefit. Most organizations and professions don't have the ability that we have to change decisions. And the decisions that we make, y'all, they change communities forever. They change lives. They change trajectories. You can look at the research. It's not hard to see the impact that homeownership has on people. I'll give you the stat nationally, and you need to know this. The average renter, when they get to the end of their working life, and let's just call it 65 for the sake of argument, although we know most 65-year-olds are way too young to retire anymore. So if you've rented for your whole life and you get to 65 and you get to retire, you have, on average, $5,000 to $7,000 worth of savings. That's it. $5,000 to $7,000. Now, you can talk about the whys on this a lot. As Americans, we don't save well. We don't have great education for our kids on credit scores and money management, and we don't have good education for adults on that. And so a renter who goes through their whole life not wanting to own a home for whatever reason it is, maybe they wanted to and couldn't, or they could and chose not to, regardless, you get to the end and you don't have much. The average homeowner at that same time, they're 65, retiring from the workforce, has an average of $200,000 in savings. $200,000. Now, we're realtors. In your head, you're thinking, yeah, but it's in a house, Leigh. To get it out, they're going to have to sell it. Yeah, but that house is most often paid off. And that means they don't have a rent payment or a house payment. And so their pension, their Social Security, their IRA, whatever savings they have, are going to keep stretching. We also know that when they get to that time of retirement and they look at their kids were more likely to have a job at a higher level than theirs, whether that was trade or vocational school, entrepreneurial opportunities, or college. And that happens because of the stability of home ownership. We see lower incidences of teenage pregnancy and drug abuse, and that's what's helping families change their whole trajectory forever. And so if we're going to think about that, you got to realize home ownership is a big deal. It's not about mansions on the coast. It's not about building, $500,000 neighborhoods. They're great. We love selling in on the houses. They're beautiful. I want y'all to remember the neighbor for whom home ownership seemed out of reach, and it stayed possible. And why does it stay possible? What's the PAC got to do with that? We protect FHA. And if you want to make me mad sometime and watch me go off, be the realtor who tells me you don't like FHA. I will take you down, because FHA has changed so many lives and given so many people an opportunity they would not have had otherwise. And for the record, a lower rate of default than conventional loans. So don't hand me any negative about FHA. Same thing with VA. VA is probably the one thing this country gets right for veterans. That program helps people get into houses and get some stability. And since so many of our veterans have PTSD, what is home ownership doing to change their lives? Now you're thinking, Leigh Brown, what are you doing all this for? Because y'all, the work that we do here is the future. And if we want to fix what's wrong with our elected officials, I think we need to be in charge, we the realtors. I will tell y'all what one of our state senators said at our Hill visits last year. And by the way, ask your local presidents and your local staff when your Hill visits are, because they matter. And the ones in Georgia are arguably more important than the ones in DC, because the decisions being made on the local and state level, if we've ever questioned it, right now we can see it, because it's broadly different across the country, and should be, because every state's different and has a different mix of urban and rural and suburban. So anyway, this state senator sat in front of all the realtors, and he said, he loves the realtors. He loves what we do. And that the reason we have impact is because we build the relationship before we make the ask, because that's who we are. And that's what I've been talking about in this whole series. You've got to take this time in coronavirus to build relationships so that one day, should you have an ask, it will not be hard and it will be welcomed. So what relationships are you building so you can make an ask? Future listings, future buyers. Think about calling the people in your market that you have served and just checking on them. You're building that relationship so that they can ask you things just as you can ask them things, because your job as a realtor is to build that trust and comfort level so that you are delighted to be the one they call to ask. And y'all know you love it. You love it when your phone rings and somebody says, hey, I wanted to know if you could tell me what color to paint our walls. What's the right color right now? Y'all love it, because when they make that phone call, they're not wasting your time. They're leaning on you as their resource. And they're doing it because you built the relationship. So when we ask you to get involved with RPAC, just know we're asking you to think about the impact on the whole country, on your whole community forever. And Bruce just makes the best point over here, and he's actually right. And if you want to know where the PAC falls, go to opensecrets.org and you can see exactly where we are for spending. We were number 19 in the 2018 midterms, and that's the latest big event, obviously, because the odd years are off years for spending. But when you look at the spending, it was 49.6% to Democrats and 50.4% to Republicans. And those flip back and forth based on incumbency, because we're not trying to favor one party. And so anytime a realtor gets mad about one party getting more than the other party, I have to remind them, in Massachusetts, if we want to have a voice, we have to support Democrats, because Republicans aren't going to win. And if you want to have anything good happen for your stuff in South Carolina, you support Republicans because they're going to win. And so you know the Reds versus the Blues, we need to have somebody in office, and then we're looking at their voting record. A purple state is definitely more of a toss-up, but we look at their voting record and what they do for property rights and how accessible they are to members. Do you return our phone calls and listen to us when we have issues? And that's how we determine. And by the way, you can always ask your leadership. They'll tell you who the realtors support, who returned our surveys, who asked those questions. And thank you, Margie, for reminding us you can do a payment plan, and Janae has already reminded you to put it to all attendees. Y'all are, I wish I could fix that default, but I can't figure out how to make Zoom fix it. So if those are the things that realtors are doing, what are we doing as individual realtors who are part of this PAC to spread the word, to let our communities know that during this time of coronavirus, it was we, the realtors, who got that SBA help going, and especially the work for independent contractors. And make no mistake about it, y'all, if our NAR chief lobbyist wasn't Shannon McGann, I don't know that we'd have seen the kind of improvements that we saw for independent contractors and small businesses. Now, she would probably argue that it was the work of many, many people, but we have a chief lobbyist who is intimately connected with Capitol Hill, who loves the realtors and what we do and how we approach a bipartisan world. And she's proud to go to bat for who our people are. So when you're on a listing appointment, wear your pin. Now, the way that you get one of the shiny ones, that's $1,000 or more. That's major investor level. Again, just ask your association if you want information about being one. But I will tell y'all, when I'm on a listing appointment, I wear this and I say to that seller suspect, I say, I want you to see this pin that I wear. This is my most expensive piece of jewelry. And what this pin indicates is that I write checks and I make personal visits to elected officials to protect and defend your rights to buy and sell the house we're sitting in right now. Make sure and ask all realtors if they do the same thing. And I win a lot of times on that, because if your competitors are simply listing out that they're going to do photos in MLS and they're going to do the stuff to sell that one house, how many of y'all are telling the consumer that you were there before they called you and you'll be there after they've moved on? Because your goal is property rights for the whole community, for their kids and their grandkids. Now, I'm going to point one more thing out to you here as we think about the word that we have to spread in our communities, because I said this in session 1, And we have to remember that this is our time. This is when people have questions. Mortgage payments. What do I do about buying a house? What do the interest rates mean? Should I refinance? They have so many questions. They don't know where they're going to get answers, because look, if y'all have gone to that CDC website, it's not super helpful, right? Because you kind of read in circles. And then if you go to the SBA website to look at the Small Business Administration help, it feels a little bit confusing and like they just dropped you into something you were supposed to automatically understand. Well, who do you go to for questions? Probably called your local banker, right? With your SBA loan, you called somebody who could help you with unemployment. People want to talk to you right now. There's never, frankly, in my career been another time when I have made as many outbound calls that had been picked up and people said, well, I'm just so glad to hear from you because you're a human. They're so glad to talk to another human right now who doesn't live in their house. So just remember, this is your time. You get to be their trusted resource with information. So this is our time, y'all. And I'm gonna tell you something. When the markets come back, the iBuyers, Open Doors, OfferPads, they're gonna swoop back in. They're out of this right now because they're not interested in being the relationship, the resource, the ask. They're just interested in the money. So if you want to show people that as a realtor, you're about more than the money, right now is when you do it. Even when it's hard to get up in the morning, even when it's hard to feel like this is going to end, even when you don't have a commission check on the horizon and you are a little panicked. Friends, I feel you on that, but push it aside. Just push it. Change the room in your house. Go outside, go to the basement, get up under the kitchen cabinet. I don't care. Go somewhere different and pick up the phone and call somebody else who may have it worse than you and check on them. It'll help you remember that your role here is way bigger than that commission dollar. Now, if you ever want to know what we're doing nationally, you should frankly go here, not just in times of coronavirus, but all the time. Go to realtorparty.realtor. You can, of course, make your investment there for your RPAC, but you can also see what issues we're working on. Because we can't forget that right now, we're dealing with coronavirus and SBA and independent contractors getting some payment and some unemployment, and that stuff's going on. We're still having to deal with flood insurance. It's still going to expire. We've still got to get some reform going there. Fannie and Freddie still in the process of reform. What's going to happen there? There are still so many issues that are happening. I will say that one thing that's happened here in the last 10 days, and I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, so if I did, forgive me, we did get an extension on the 1031 replacement period, which is that 6-month period. There's a short extension on that and an extension on opportunity zones as well. And so if you don't do 1031s, get educated and understand that that's what keeps the commercial market alive. And we need to pay attention to that because the commercial market is going to have bigger and deeper issues than the residential market when all of this is over, simply because so many companies are going to say, well, the work at home has worked fine. We no longer need space. And so if you have commercial realtor friends, make sure they're aware of realtorparty.realtor and why they need to be involved, because it's going to take a bigger effort to rescue our commercial market. Now, April, of course, is Fair Housing Month. And so why am I playing this in with Be the Future? Look, the future of real estate depends on the ability for us as realtors to reach all neighbors in our community, and not with condescension of, oh, you know, I'm the one who can help you. No, it's, look, if y'all need anything, call me. I'm here. I'll talk to anybody at any time about what your goals are and see if I can help. And maybe I can and maybe I can't, but I'm available at all times. Fair housing says that what you do for one, you do for all. And the number that keeps me up at night, y'all need to be aware of it because it doesn't make sense to me. As I really enjoy math, I like data and statistics and metrics. And if you want to know the truth, I wish that right now, all of the elected officials and health departments of the country could come out loud and say, well, thank the Lord above that the models were wrong. We haven't seen as many deaths. We haven't seen as many vents needed. We haven't seen the attacks, and it can be for a myriad reasons, but thank heavens they were wrong. Let's start getting smart about some reopening safety measures, because I think almost anybody that I know is going to be an adult about this. They're probably not going to hug for a minute, and they're probably going to wash their hands more, which they should have been doing all along. But anyway, when you go back and look at numbers, The numbers I have are probably a month old, and I'm hoping it's moved a little since then. But frankly, I'm a little overwhelmed with my emails right now, so forgive me if I'm a little off. But your national homeownership rate right now, according to the U.S. Census Department, is sitting at 64.1%. The optimal number, if you look at economic data, should be 67%. So that's a pretty good amount of houses if you look at the estimated population of the U.S. at 330 million. That's a lot of houses, especially for y'all and for me, because we are in the South. We are in positive growth markets for jobs and economy, and on the balance, we have more affordable options than they do in, say, the Bay Area. The number got as high as 70% homeownership rate during the Clinton era, but we all know that there was some really not great mortgage stuff going on then that put a lot of people at risk. And a lot of people, because they got bad loans with bad backing and no education, went to foreclosure during the Great Recession. So 70 is probably not the real number, and it was high for a minute, but it wasn't sustainable. So we're going to back to this place. We got 3% where we should be, right? So that's the national average rate. Look at the African-American community. There was a big celebration about 3 months ago in NAREB, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. If you're not a member, you should totally join. I'm the light-skinned member of the group because we learn more about each other when we spend more time together and we start understanding the different pieces and parts of our population so that we can be solution providers, right? Because what are realtors? Professional problem solvers. Well, what happened is the president this year, Donnell, he sent out an email that said, hey, this is awesome. The African-American home ownership rate has gone up 2 points. Woo! It went up from 42 to 44%. Now, it doesn't take a genius to see there's a 20% gap there. Why? Why does that exist? It's not because our African-American neighbors are less able to buy a house. In a lot of cases, they're perfectly able, but didn't have the education along the way about how do you get your credit score ready and how do you apply for a loan and all this stuff, because our school system doesn't really give out financial information correctly. And maybe you have some other gaps in the community, but I think that on the balance, you can solve a lot of stuff with education and being available, be the resource, right? We talked about that the whole time. If your neighbors knew they could have somebody to talk to about buying a house, and that somebody wasn't going to pester the heck out of them and sell them tomorrow, but if they need a year to help provide a plan for a year, what could change in our communities? Oh, homeownership gives better stability to kids, lower teenage pregnancy, lower drug rates, better chance of improved job status over time. We really need to be paying attention. And Fair Housing Month isn't necessarily about one group over another group. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm just saying what we do for one, we do for all. And when we see a gap, friends, we should know the gap and pay attention to the gap so we can solve the gap. So I'd like to know by raise of hands, because remember, if you raise your hand, I don't know what to do with it except look at it on the screen. How many of y'all have had a Zoom call with somebody in the last week that was not organized by somebody else, but was organized by you? Look at all these hands go up. Oh, look, it makes 2 lines across my screen. This is kind of cool. I didn't know it would do that. So it wasn't as scary as you thought, right? And you were probably surprised at how quickly people were willing to say yes to it and to give you opportunities to meet with them virtually. Think about how you can continue this, y'all, because we're going to see a gradual reopening of our economies. We're going to see pieces and parts come in. And so as realtors, if we are the professional problem solvers who are interested in relationship before the ask, we're going to be smart about our real estate businesses. When somebody calls you and wants to buy a home, maybe now instead of saying, meet me at Starbucks, you're going to say, would you prefer to meet by Zoom or meet for coffee to discuss the process? That you might have always an option here, knowing that people are going to have different levels of comfort with interaction as things go back towards normal. Think about how you can continue the friendships that you have started to rekindle through Zoom. This group, of course, the people that show up every week are changing, but it's moved to a Friday night. We call it crisis cocktail hour at 7 o'clock. And I can't always log in at 7 because it depends on if I got supper ready or not. And then my husband and I like to go for a walk after supper. And so I have to kind of balance my time. But I've been able to log in for at least 10 minutes each week. And I feel like it's helped me get through. And I feel like I know my fellow realtors better. including the fact that one of my realtor friends did not know that borax is better for your clothes to get white than Clorox. And I don't know how she didn't know that, but she says it's because she's not as country as I am. And I didn't think borax was a country thing, but maybe it is. So if y'all don't have 20 Mule Team borax and you didn't know, it will whiten things better than Clorox. But anyway, think about what Zoom is going to do for your future when you consider being that resource, being the person who builds educational opportunities. How many of y'all would think about now setting up a Zoom meeting with your elected officials? Why not send a quick note and say, if you've got 5 minutes, I'd like to ask you a question. And they say, sure. And you say, great, at 10:15, I'm going to send you a Zoom link. If you can log in, I've got questions. Then let's just say you're going to do that. You go to your social media and you say, hey, if you weren't aware, one of the realtor jobs that I don't tell about all the time because some of y'all just kind of hate the idea of politics is to make sure we know who's out there looking out for homeowners and neighborhoods and communities and making sure that we have a discussion about affordability and that we know what public-private partnerships make sense. And you start talking about stuff. So if any of y'all have questions you want me to ask, shoot it over. I'll ask and I'll report back. Be that resource that is willing to do what other people don't want to do. Y'all have seen this on your own listings, right? You've had to go finish getting a box out of a house because the seller was like, if the buyers want it out of there, you get it. I'm done. They just done. And you're like, you know what? I'll do it. And you have gone over in the middle of winter to set a pipe to drip because the homeowner's like, I know it's vacant. I ain't driving over there. I don't care if that pipe bursts. I don't care. And you're the one that says, okay, fine. I got it. I'll do it. I'll do it. So take that same I'll do it attitude and apply it to all these other pieces. And then think too, my representative loves when I Zoom him. And then he's always happy though that I set appointments now because I used to just FaceTime him because he gave me his private cell phone number. Because what you should know is that all of your elected officials, they have two phones. They have the phone that they give out to the public, and then they have the one that their spouse has. And if you can get that one, then you're in. Well, I FaceTimed him one too many times, and he's like, you don't give me enough warning, and you always ask questions. And what if I'm not ready to talk? I'm like, fine, I will FaceTime you in 15 minutes. And so I FaceTime him now this way, like, so I need to ask you this quick question. If I can look at him and get his answer, it's better than if I get the staffer who's going to send me out a 4-paragraph email. And I love his staffers. They are a very nice group of young people. But look, I like to hold people accountable. And when you look them in the eye, you get to do that. So I got to ask y'all, if you're feeling like you got Zoom down pat, how many of you are making daily phone calls to people that you know? So in session 2, we talked about your 150. Look, Lynn, extra credit, sister, raising your hand. The rest of y'all not making any phone calls. I mean, come on now, listen. You got the phone. You've got a house full of people that are tired of you. Start making some phone calls, okay? And what you want to do, go to your contacts we talked about last week. Look at your 150. Call them first. And then just be the best version of you. Now, I will tell y'all that what I discovered since last week, and it may be just a week ago that I discovered this. I did not know about the app Marco Polo. Do y'all know about Marco Polo? Ennis does. You know Ennis Antoine? Well, Ennis had sent me this a long time ago, and I thought for sure that it was a scam, so I did not click on it. And we love Ennis. He wasn't really scamming, but it's a video chat thing. And anyway, my best friend since the 2nd grade sent me a Marco Polo. And I'm like, well, I trust her. And no offense to Ennis. He knows I love him. But, you know, he will do anything gadgety that he can find. Well, Carrie sent it to me, and I haven't talked to her in ages. And so she sent me this little thing, and it's a little tiny video message. And then you can respond. And you get this little conversation going in person where you didn't have to answer the phone because you might be in the middle of 8 things. And so then I was talking to the Lubbock Realtors. And Jeff Kahn, who is a commercial realtor in Lubbock. So this is what it looks like on your screen. See, you got these little beach balls rolling around down here. Well, Jeff told me that he Marco Poloed when you okay, it's very complicated. When you set up Marco Polo, it will tell other people that you're in there. And so suddenly I was talking to Carrie, and all these other realtors started to respond. They're like, hey, you're here, hey, Leigh Brown, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, great, realtors. Well, Jeff said he got a commercial buyer who saw that he was active in Marco Polo and said, I got $1 million to deploy, help me out. And Jeff said, all right. And I said, dude, you about to become my poster child for how that could be a new thing. So Y'all are already using it, extra credit. I'm slow, middle-aged. Don't judge me. I need to get my hair colored. And so think about where you can do that. So what I've done now is when somebody texts me, I Marco Polo them back, and I'm trying to build some activity in there because I want to talk to people however they want to be talked to. And that might be another way of interaction. So check it out. But in addition, you got to pick up this phone and you got to call people. And I want you to be the best version of yourself. And just remember, they need to hear from you. Now, the picture I have on the screen, she's very comfortable. See, she's got her hair pulled back. She did wash her face, I can tell, but she didn't put makeup on. She's got on a comfortable cardigan. She's not super realtor-y looking. And I would say that's okay. My challenge for myself and my challenge for you is, if you're as comfortable as she is, are you going to make your phone calls? The reality is, for most of us, if you don't force yourself to get up and at least do this from the waist up, it's hard to remember that you're actually a professional realtor who gets paid thousands and thousands of dollars every time you sell a property. I think we forget that sometimes because we're like, well, I'm supposed to have 5 closings this month. Yeah, but each of those closings represented how many thousands of dollars? Looking like you're worth it changes your ability to pick up the phone and your desire to do so. So Mama Leigh is telling you, friends, it will help you, okay? It helps me. It will help you. And when you call that one person, you know what happens, right? You call another one. Now, for my numbers geeks in the room, let me just remind you of a stat that's real across all sales and industries. Look, Janaea says Marco Polo is fun. I bet you $1 in has sucked you into it too. Margie, change your thing to all panelists and attendees. You're killing us here. You're just talking to me and Janaea and Margie Medlin. You amazing woman, you. All right, so if you look at all sales professions across decades, of your outbound phone calls, 10% of them turn into business, okay? Now, remember that. All outbound phone calls turn into, 10% of those turn into business. If you make one phone call a day, Monday through Friday, for 30 days. That's going to be 20 phone calls, right? Because I gave y'all Saturday and Sunday to take off. If you make 20 outbound phone calls, 10% of that is 2. If you had 2 deals come together by making one phone call a day, how many of y'all would breathe a little easier? I mean, honestly, sometimes we forget that it's those pieces that start adding up. And it doesn't have to be this shtick that you see from these real estate coaches all over Facebook and Instagram that make me want to poke my eye out with a dull fork, that talk about 100 listings and you're going to make $380,000 this year. Look, there are some realtors that will, but there's a whole lot more that won't. And my focus is on the realtors who are trying to put food on the table. And if you're a top producer, it's not that I love you less, but I'm not as worried about you. I'm worried about the realtors that need some deals to get together, and they forgot. They forgot that it's okay to have the goal of a $50,000 income year. That's all right. It's okay to have your goal be 30 houses. You don't have to be a $100 million producer doing 100 sides a year. What you have to remember is that if you make some disciplined daily activities happen, there is business to be had. If you don't make one phone call a day and then you wonder why you have no business, it's nobody but you, okay? Now, it could also be the fact that some of y'all are terrible at conversion, but if you're terrible at conversion, then please take some classes. I told y'all last week, there's over 90 free webinars at crs.com. And when you have 90 free webinars and you can pick and choose where your personal skill gaps are, you can go get better, okay? So I've got to point out to you that when we think about professionalism, it's not just you. So if y'all haven't seen this video, this is probably my favorite of all the Zoom fails that have gone around the internet. She has got her blouse on, her face on, her hair done, and she's on a call. And then here comes her man with his underpants on. And in the video, she's doing this. She's like got her hand behind her, like trying to wish him out while she's talking. She's not going to be deterred. And then he's like bouncing off the walls, trying to get out of the camera. It's flipping hilarious. So just my reminder to you is that when those things happen, it's okay because everybody's working from home right now. But it's also why my personal Zoom office is the corner of the dining room and everything happens in front of me. So Enjoy it, okay? This is probably the one time in your professional life when you can do what many realtors are doing. They're showing their Zoom and quarantine real estate outfits, which Lou Mayo up in Massachusetts did a little TikTok where he was walking down the stairs in his really attractive pajama pants with a suit jacket on. Lighten up, okay? But do the best you can to make yourself look better. And then you're going to have to ask yourself, what can I be doing beyond a phone call, beyond some social media? Leigh, what can I do right now? Well, things you can do might just be to create positive activity. So this is my friend Darius. We're in a run club together. And you'll see here that, of course, Darius is the fit one. He's a trainer, and his wife held the camera. So we of course, got all tickled. We're like, she was smart to hold the camera. So he starts the push-up challenge, and it's doing 10 a day, okay? You've seen these things roll around before. They're all over Pinterest. They're very popular at New Year's. 28 days to better arms and 28 days to learn how to drink more water, whatever it is. Pick your own, okay? But when Darius started it, he started tagging people that he knew would not want to do it, but would do it for him. So in the middle, you see my friend Lainey Carpenter, who also I run with, and she hates push-ups. And you can see from her description, I'll do it, but I'm doing modified, and I know I should do better, but it's a start, okay? Well, when Lainey did it, she sent a text to all of us, and she said, if I have to, y'all have to. Like, well, nobody said you had to. Somehow we all got roped into that, and so here we all are. And then Peter, who's a candidate for Stanley County Commission right near us, he said, all right, if y'all are doing it, I will. And so you start realize that you can actually have your own ripple effect. And it doesn't have to be house, 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 house. But what happens is your name gets into all these things as a positive person. I don't think that's something to apologize for. I will tell you, I've been doing my joke of the day on Instagram for quarantine, and I do that not just for people who follow me. I do it for myself because I have to find a way to get up so that I can get through these days. And I got the nastiest message last night. It was this many paragraphs long from some guy telling me that I am fake and terrible, and I should be volunteering at the homeless shelter, and I should be willing to get my hands dirty and shouldn't be just posting jokes and doing hymn sings on Sunday because that's all fake, and basically how awful I am. And it's amazing to me that there's so many people in the world that look for ways to tear other people down. So I replied to him that I don't know what caused him to be angry, but I would pray for him because something's going on in his world, and it's not related to me because I don't know that person. But you have a choice to make, y'all. You can choose every day. If you're going to be the person who says there's another side of the pandemic, I'm going to get politically active in a way that benefits my community. I'm going to call people and check on them. I'm going to be a positive ripple effect. Or you can choose to be the nasty person who goes and seeks out people that are doing their best and tear them down. And I don't think that's who y'all are. I know it's not who the realtors I know are. The realtors that I know are doing their level best to take care of other people and make their way through this. Now, you've seen a lot of people do the sidewalk art challenge. So can you be a part of this? Has it hit your neighborhood? If it hasn't, go outside and do it. And if it's hit your neighborhood and you didn't participate, well, go outside and get some chalk and play. Now, if I have to be honest, that square at the top is what mine would look like. I could probably write some words. I could never create this stained glass artwork. That's not how I'm gifted, all right? But sometimes it's not about how you're gifted, it's about your willingness to go do. One of our realtors in Texas, Brooke Hunt, she and her husband decided to paint some happy things on the fence at their house on the outside, which was next to the street. And it turned into this really funny conversation about their two different personality types and why it kept getting, a cloud added here and a flower over here. And it's pretty hilarious, but you'll also be able to see that that's her way of saying we're at home, we're managing each other, and we're still trying to bring some happiness. So what can you do? Maybe as a realtor, and I'm tempted to start this week, except because it's really rainy here today, I'm tempted to start the window washing challenge, where we're going to wash one window a day until we get around the house. But I'm kind of afraid to start it because it means I'm going to have to wash a window every day. But I do think it would help my future sellers have a cleaner house when the issues are over here in the marketplace. But ask yourself, what can you do that's creative? And think about our Surgeon General. This is Dr. Jerome Adams. He is the Surgeon General of the U.S. This was from a video that he put out on Palm Sunday. So if you go to his Twitter feed, you can find this. And he showed in like a minute how you can make your mask out of a t-shirt and 2 rubber bands. I think a lot of people are intimidated by making a mask because they think they have to have a sewing machine and some elastic, and they heard that the what's that place called? Joann's is out of elastic. So what are they supposed to do? Well, Dr. Adams took a t-shirt, showed boom, 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 boom. So could you take his video and make your own version and tell people, I've got a goal of learning how to make a mask. That goal is now done. So somebody give me something else to do. People will give you suggestions. They love bossing each other around, but it's a way to take information that you as a resource have and then bring it to other people in a positive and promotional way, because you're promoting good behaviors and you're promoting positive things while you want it. So you are leaning stop. I don't know what that means. Rob, I don't know what that means. You might have to reword that because it looked odd. We are leaning. Okay, so I've left us here just a couple of questions at the end. When you're thinking about, though, creating a challenge, I would just suggest that you think about what's not just self-serving. So if it's window washing, do it with your kids in there so you can get your kids to learn something. We are leaning stop signs in the side or hood. Rob, baby, I don't know what you're saying, let's see, but stop signs in the sign. Rob, I bet you have an amazing idea when you slow down enough to type the whole sentence, friend, and I'm as guilty as anybody of typing, having to backspace and send it. You will have all of the graphics here. Janae is asking about that RPAC being the benefit to the public. That is actually a download on my site. Let me give you a couple of other sites I want y'all to make sure and hit while you're at home. I know some of y'all have been here because I've seen your post on social about getting your ePro designation finally. Good job. At Home with Diversity certification, that's available. There's the pricing strategist, that's available. You've got education available, free, and memberships and discounts, all kinds of things being done right now. This is the link where they're located, nar.realtor/right-tools-right-now. Go check it out and ask yourself if you can't crush out a designation this week after you make your one phone call, right? And then I already mentioned, go to crs.com, has over 90 free webinars. Of course, Margie can answer any questions you have about CRS. And of course, you have a ton of Georgia leaders, Greg Waldauer and Phyllis Graham, and a ton of folks. Let me see. Oh, Rob is cleaning stop signs in the neighborhood. I love that. See, there was a reason for you to go type that again, because that's a cool idea. So are you doing that on social? I want to see a video of this. Margie will make sure and tag something where I could see it, because Margie's probably my Facebook person who sees the most stuff out there. That's fantastic. So find stuff like that that you can do. Maybe it's go pull weeds at your neighborhood entrance monument. If you're practicing social distancing and you're also bringing something back, give somebody else an idea. I mean, there's a thing on TikTok where, if you've noticed it, somebody will do something and then they pass over here and then they splice in another video of somebody else doing it and they pass it here. You could even make a little video cleaning a stop sign and then pass it to Lynn in her neighborhood. Lynn makes one and passes it to Karen and then Alice. And I'm using their names because they all piped up here about that particular idea. I stinking love that. Okay, so on the resources tab, if you go to learnwithleigh.com or text the word kicktail to 555-888, that graphic should be there. Janae, if you don't see it, let me know, because I also have the graphic that is the first slide in my listing presentation, which is Code of Ethics Standard of Practice 1.3. And I always start my listing presentations that way, and I explain that realtors, in attempting to secure a listing, shall not deliberately mislead the owner as to its market value, which is how I keep myself from overpricing listings. I make sure they know it's unethical to do so. So I dropped that in. Lynn has started Veggies for Friends Kids and asked them to keep a journal. I love that. So you're doing actually like a homeschool lesson on biology and also on food security. So start thinking about what you can be doing. Y'all, we're in the South. If y'all don't have your tomato plants in the ground yet, you better get after it, because especially you women out there, you know, Southern women have to grow tomatoes. That was one of the funniest things in Steel Magnolias, because it was so stinking true, where that was Shirley MacLaine's character brought that sack of tomatoes into Dolly Parton's shop and said she was required to grow them as a Southern woman, and she was giving them away. I mean, if you really get some squash and zucchini going, you can do something with that on into the summer. A text marketing number. Oh, Sandy, that's something I pay for through one of my speaker associations. You can find any of them out there. And let's see, Donna's got her tomatoes in. Margie's challenging y'all to get your C2EX. That's a great idea. Commitment to Excellence is free, and it's a really good program. And I'll tell you, I'm a 20-year realtor, hardcore junkie. I go to all the classes. I take everything. I pride myself on knowing stuff. And daggone if I didn't miss some questions and get redirected down learning paths because I don't know everything. And it's wonderful to get humbled on that, because then I dove in and wound up spending like 3 hours playing in it. So go get your C2EX. And by the way, they did just announce that it's going to count for your code of ethics requirement, because they're trying to find ways for agents to fulfill that aren't in-person classes at the current time. And I see the boss has put her video back on. All right, sister, what do we need to tell them, and what do they need to know from you? Your microphone's not turned on. Unmute. Let's see.
Oh, I was doing a whole solo. I was singing to you and everything.
Well, it was amazing. I enjoyed it very much.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for providing this opportunity. You were first out the gate to send us something, and just always on top of everything. And so we appreciate you sharing us your expertise and just reminding us of the basics, going back to the basics and doing the things that are most important in our business. And so tomorrow we have another class with Dan out of California. So if you all have not registered, please do register. It is at 10 o'clock as well. Leigh, will you be doing any other series in the future while we're home quarantined?
I'm hopeful that they're going to start to reopen the economy and we'll be able to get back to work. But I'm already working on something in the event that that doesn't happen, because I do think that if this extends in some areas until June, there's going to be a lot of people who need some more content. So I'll be in touch, and I think Barry's on my email list. So as long as he checks my emails,
yep,
y'all will be all right. And Barry's pretty good about email. That's like his favorite thing ever.
Yes, it is. And just want to let everyone know, our COB members, we're going to host a bingo night or a bingo afternoon next week. So when you see the email come out, or you may have already seen it come out, please register. It's going to be fun. We have some prizes that we're going to give away. And so please.
Can I play?
Sure. We'll send that out to you. So for all of our COB members, and guests, thank you so much for being here. Please stay positive, stay hopeful, stay busy, but most importantly, stay healthy. And we just appreciate everybody. So thank you and have a good day.